Hey, if you're here for the first time, my name is Joseph. I am a certified life coach, a published author, a music artist, and I post a lot of content related to self-awareness and spirituality and a whole lot of things in between that. If that is your bag, then this may be your safe space. For those of you returning, hey, let me know how you're feeling and healing in the comments. I have a lot to say right now. But before I dive deep into any of this, please excuse any background noise. Get comfortable, light a candle, pour a cup of tea, or just let this play in the background while you move around. What I'm about to share here feels necessary for the larger conversation, especially in a social climate that, for many of us, feels like a fever dream or a living asylum. If your body's been reacting in ways that feel abnormal, ungrounded, or just plain uncomfortable, you're not alone. I call this existential exhaustion. Whether you name it that or something else, let this video give you a few things to consider and maybe a few takeaways you can actually use as we all move through what feels like another loop of collective uncertainty. We're living in a hopeless hope. Look, everybody's tired. Not just need to take a nap tired. I'm talking mentally, emotionally, spiritually tired. We're all trying to stay aware and hold it together at the same time, and that's a full-time job, atop of the many other responsibilities. The world keeps rewarding people for pretending they're fine and then gaslights you when you say you're not. But the thing that most folks miss is that the exhaustion you feel depends on which version of you is running the show. Your survival version or your coherent version. The survival version is slick. It'll have you chasing stability in the same systems that drain you, saying things like, well, it's just life, or this is adulting, what are you gonna do? It'll convince you that grind culture is responsible, that emotional burnout is normal, that love means self-sacrifice, and that being busy means you're doing something right. The coherent version moves differently. It's slower. It doesn't play pretend. It's the voice that says, wait a minute, why am I giving all my time and my energy to things that keep me empty? Coherence is what happens when you stop gaslighting yourself long enough to see how much of what you call normal is actually codependency in disguise. It's a hopeless hope. It's that feeling when you know something better is possible, but you can't live in it consistently because the world keeps pulling you back into survival mode. Hopeless hope. We all flip-flop between these two versions, but only one of them actually knows peace, and it's not the one most of you are defending. Again, survival is slick and it's clever as hell. It knows exactly how to make you believe you're living when you're really just maintaining. It'll dress itself up as ambition, love, discipline, or even spirituality. Whatever keeps you slowing down long enough to notice how rigged the game is. Think critically about this. Most people's lives are built on survival loops. You work a job that drains you because you need the paycheck. You keep friendships that don't feed you because you don't want to be alone. You stay in family dynamics that hurt because that's just how they are. And then after a while, you start calling that normal. Survival doesn't want you thriving. It just wants you functioning, keeping you small and compliant. It'll even use hope as anesthesia, telling you things will get better while keeping you stuck in the same conditions that make you miserable. Yet, you continue to reach for that job title, that relationship status, that income bracket, that clout, in the very systemic loop using your energy against you. These loops have you hustling for validation and then clapping for yourself when you earn a minuscule morsel of relief. That's not peace. That's sedation. That's drug addict behavior. I know that stung for some of you, so breathe. And so to justify this addiction, it's easy to cling to religion, politics, or self-help strategies because they're familiar. Survival loves what it can predict, which isn't inherently bad, but it hates not knowing, which means it hates surrendering to the not knowing, and it hates the stillness that happens when it can't see anything yet. So when something or someone comes along that threatens to shake up that pattern of familiarity, maybe a hard truth, a person, or an opportunity that's actually clean, the survival mind panics. It calls it, well, that's too good to be true. Or if you've been heavily indoctrinated, it's evil, it's dangerous. But see, coherence is completely different. It doesn't argue with survival, it just exposes it. Coherence doesn't care how long you've been doing something or how comfortable it feels. It only cares if it's embodied. It'll walk right through your routines, your habits, your relationships, and start flipping the light switches on. At first, that can feel a little chaotic because you start seeing what's been running your life now. Fear, guilt, pride, and that deep need to prove you're doing it right. Coherence creates peace by telling the truth. Survival chases peace by delaying the truth or mislabeling it. Coherence is a deep call to be honest enough to admit what's out of rhythm, even when it costs you the comfort you built your identity around. Comfort in a survival headspace easily becomes complacency. And then you end up misusing comfort with phrases like, get out of your comfort zone. No. Comfort is actually good for the nervous system. Get out of your complacent zone. That's the reframe. When you commit to living from coherence, the pace of your life slows down because clarity doesn't rush. You stop needing to explain yourself to people who only listen through unprocessed grief and complacency. You stop trying to make everyone comfortable with your growth. And as a result, coherence starts to sting because it reveals how much of what you thought was love, support, loyalty was really attachment, a dependency, a fear of rejection. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Therefore, the exhaustion is different for people who live from coherence because you got to tolerate a world still addicted to survival. You're holding a steady vibration in a field that thrives on chaos. And you're not crazy for feeling the heaviness. You're just in a constant tug of war between embodied coherence and repeated survival habits. Let's unpack this. Most of you are living as an 85% version of who you were told to be and only 15% of who you actually are. That 85% is what survival built. It's your personality, your routines, your coping mechanisms, even your sense of good and bad. It's the part that got rewarded for fitting in and punished for standing out. And the problem is that your coherence, which is the part of you that's actually alive and awake right now, lives inside that 15%. And the 85% doesn't want to lose control because it's built an entire life around being the right kind of person. It's made friends, chosen careers, fallen in love, all based on survival criteria. So when coherence starts rising, you feel like you're losing your mind, but really, you're losing your mask. You start grieving the version of yourself that everyone recognized, the one who played nice, the one who tolerated dissonance for the sake of keeping the peace, the one who made self-abandonment look responsible. And that grief is real. It's not negative. It's what happens when you stop gaslighting your own evolution. Because to live in coherence, you have to integrate the version of you that survived pretending. And that's why so many of you don't make it to sustained coherence. Not because you can't, but because you can't stomach grieving who you had to be, or let me make it a real-time thing for a few of you. Grieving who you are being right now to survive. But once you start seeing it clearly, everything softens. Compassion shows up. Not the watered down kind. It's the kind that holds grief, the mistakes, the contradictions, and says, yeah, that was me. And from there, grace, mercy, empathy, and safety start to bloom. But it's not the cute, romanticized blooming. It's actually a death experience. And this is where most of you tap out and drug yourself again, because death sounds scary until you realize it's not even dying. It's about finally stopping the survival performance. It's a metaphoric death. The metaphoric death isn't dramatic, it's subtle. It happens when you stop forcing yourself to care about what doesn't feed you, and when you stop pretending that struggle is righteous. It's when you stop calling constant anxiety motivation. It's that deep exhale when you realize, I don't have to keep proving I'm worthy of existing. And so death in that sense is just a release. It's the moment you look at an old version of yourself, the one that kept saying yes out of fear, the one who loved people who couldn't meet you, the one who stayed small to stay safe, and you say, thank you, but we're done here now. And that goodbye hurts. That's what you got to be honest about. Stop this nonchalant behavior. It's supposed to hurt. You are grieving a self that got you here. You are shedding identities that helped you survive, but can't help you live. When you do that, the survival panic amplifies. Yes, it tries to bargain. It tries to bring you back into the loop with comfort food, nostalgia, and even guilt. And you'll feel like you're betraying people. You'll feel like you're betraying yourself. But what's actually happening is a recalibration. Your energy is remembering its natural rhythm. This death isn't punishment, it's permission. And when you release it with honesty, the people, the opportunities, the experiences that match your coherence start appearing because you finally made room. You can't be full of survival and expect coherence to stay. One of them has to die for the other one to breathe. And this is why being awake is, in my personal opinion, the most exhausting. It's the kind that comes from seeing everything so clearly while still having to live in it. You start noticing the loops, the same arguments, but with clever language now. The same people repeating healing patterns, reinforcing trauma loops. The same systems rebranding control as progress. And you can't unsee it. You're realizing how much of this world is built on clever survival. And it's not just other people's survival, it's yours too. Your purpose, your grind, your patience, your self-work, they all carry survival residue. That's why sometimes the hope for collective coherence feels like cosmic gaslighting. You can sense it, you can taste it, you can even live it in micro moments, but sustaining it starts to feel like an impossible dream. Because right now, the collective field is still wired for survival. And many of you think you're evolving, but you're just intellectualizing your survival patterns, calling your coping clarity and your avoidance peace. So for those living from coherence, every day feels like standing in the middle of a traffic jam holding a candle. You're not trying to save anybody. You're just trying to keep your flame from blowing out. You know coherence is the existential truth, but you also know you might not see it fully in your lifetime. This sounds like despair because we hear variations of that throughout history, but it's not despair from this point of view. It's just the raw math of how slow integration can be in a survival primed world. And so you train your body to pace itself. You stop chasing the field and start cultivating micro worlds. I call them containers, the spaces, relationships, and moments where coherence can breathe. You stop expecting everyone to get it, and instead you focus on sustaining the few places that do. It's honest hope. It's knowing the system is rigged, but choosing to stay soft anyway. It's letting awareness refine you without letting exhaustion define you. I'm a poet and didn't know it. Don't block me. But seriously, you then come face to face with alignment. And alignment has nothing to do with things clicking into place. It's which mindset is driving the clicking. Catch that? You now have survival alignment and coherent alignment. For example, suddenly you get pinged by something or someone and it leaves you wondering, well, which alignment triggered that ping? Let's unpack that. Because this is the part that messes with your head the most. That ping. It's that sudden spark, that pull, that chemistry. It feels clean. It feels right. It feels like this might finally be it. But half the time, that ping isn't coherence at all. It's survival recognizing itself in someone else's survival and calling it destiny. Survival alignment feels magnetic because it's familiar. It mirrors the same pattern you've been trying to outgrow. The inconsistency, the overgiving, the caretaking, the waiting for proof, calling scarcity patience. And because survival has learned to read pressure as connection, it interprets the friction that you feel as meaning. Coherent alignment feels different. It doesn't rush. It doesn't bargain. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It moves slow. Not because it's avoiding, but because it's clean. There's nothing to untangle. And that calm can be disorienting when your body is wired for tension. That's why you can feel a deep resonance with someone and still not know what it means. Sometimes it's both survival and coherence, layered over each other like static and signal. The body feels the potential while the mind still interprets through old codes. So, your job isn't to chase the ping or deny it, it's to read it, collect information about yourself. Is this waking up your nervous system or relaxing it? Is this making you bargain for clarity or move with ease? Is this feeding your curiosity or your craving? And most of you confuse attraction with alignment because you've never known connection without survival. You've only known merging through pain or validation. Coherence doesn't need that. It meets you cleanly. If it's not meeting you cleanly, that's the information. Pay attention to how your survival mind might try to force it into a narrative you don't yet have evidence for. So when the ping hits, don't call it fate right away. Call it feedback. Use it to see where your own field still confuses stimulation for stability. So, here's what it means to live inside a survival primed world while activating coherence, your clarity, your safety, and more practically, your rest. The body's been fiending for a deep exhale, a consistent and more evenly supported cycle of that inhale and exhale. Rest sounds simple until you try to do it while awakening your coherence. Most of you think rest means doing nothing, but embodied rest is an energetic condition. It's what happens when you're not bracing yourself anymore. And the problem is, most of us have only ever known neutrality and rest that's built against pressure and not within a shared connection. So even when something good finally arrives, the opportunity, the love, the stability, the body doesn't know what to do with it. It's still wired to defend against disappointment. Your system stays half alert because it's never been allowed to co-regulate safely. That's what living inside a survival primed world does. It trains you to earn rest instead of simply embody it, to fix yourself before you let yourself be loved, to make peace conditional on a pretentious performance. And it's not just individual, it's systemic. It's always systemic. The culture's entire rhythm is designed around fatigue. Work until you burn out, perform empathy, commercialize healing, sell calm as a luxury product. Coherence gets branded as privilege instead of our existential baseline. So, when you're trying to live coherently in that mess, it's gonna feel like you're walking upstream. Your nervous system is training your survival mind to move to a rhythm that the collective hasn't remembered yet. It's slow, uncomfortable, and often lonely. And again, what's slow, uncomfortable, and lonely in coherence isn't the same in survival. Please know the difference and be honest about that difference. But no matter the difference, the tension you feel is energetic information. Every time you meet pressure with restraint instead of collapse, you're proving that coherence can exist inside contradiction. That's the layering within the revolution. Staying clear in a field that's noisy, staying soft in a world that worships hardness. And so rest in this sense isn't a finish line, it's a practice. It's the micro moments where you stop fighting the tempo of the field and remember that your clarity is already the antidote. That's the real work of coherence, healing, personal development, spirituality. It's not escaping the survival world, but it's refusing to let it rewire your definition of peace and standing firm in its flow and whatever shifts within that peace. So the overall point here isn't to sound deep. I know there were a lot of points here, yes, but use this as training ground to hold complexity without resisting so much. And be honest about the tension, the clarity, and everything in between. We are all living in a world that's loud, clever, and simultaneously ignorant, and yet starving for meaning. The survival version of us is everywhere. It's running the governments, the algorithms, love, timelines, healing spaces, and calling exhaustion purpose and chaos momentum. But coherence doesn't yell. It doesn't need you to perform enlightenment or curate peace. It just invites you to stop pretending you're not tired. Because that's where it starts. Radical honesty. Not the brand of honesty that looks polished, but the kind that says, I'm doing my best not to lose myself in this noise, so that I can come in and say, maybe you're not losing your mind or losing yourself. Maybe you are coming to your senses and meeting your coherent self more honestly. Coherence is the remembering that survival doesn't own you. It's the deep decision to keep showing up clear even when no one else is. It's holding neutrality because you finally trust yourself to move through what's not neutral. So if you're here and you feel this, the exhaustion, the clarity, the tug of war between what's collapsing and what's being born, then you already know. You're part of the frequency that's training the field to remember what coherence feels like. And the continued work is to keep living it loud enough for others around you to catch on, but soft enough to stay human in the process. If this hit something real within you, leave a comment below, share it with someone who will actually get it, and subscribe or follow, not for the algorithm, but because these conversations deserve space in the noise. In the meantime and in between time, please be kind and gentle with yourself in this moment and in the right now moments to come.